Hey guys, it's Wags with Ironman 4x4. I'm really excited because I love Tundras. I have one, and today I'm going to be walking you through how to get these UCAs installed. Super fast to install compared to a lot of the other trucks. There's really not a lot of things in the way that you have to screw with. This thing pops in and out, really, really nice. First off, let's talk about some features. These Pro-Forged UCAs use a drop forging process. It's the same way that your high-end tools like Snap-on and Craftsman make them. The reason why they do that is because it aligns the grain structure to make it super strong. Even though it's aluminum and they're very light, they're super, super strong, super precise. Every single one of these things that gets stamped out is dead nuts perfect. Some of the other tubular construction stuff where guys are welding, you get thermal expansion, so stuff gets tweaked in the jig. They're not as precise as this. So precise that the reason a lot of high-end race cars like the Ford GT, Teslas, Mercedes-Benz, they use this same exact style of upper control arm. And another great benefit of the Ironman 4x4 Pro-Forged UCAs are you can fit larger tires in better offsets so that you're not going to rub those tires into the back of your UCA. It's a set and forget mentality with Ironman 4x4. If you're familiar with all of our other suspension products, we build stuff for utility. No. Utility. Looks good, works good. You don't have to, every time you come off the trail, you don't have to come back and adjust something or retorque something. You basically get them installed, lock it down, 500 miles, come back, retorque all your nuts, and you're good to go. And that's one of the number one complaints we hear from people in the industry that run, adjustable upper control arms is that they're always out of whack. They're always losing their alignment and they're burning out tires. So yeah, we're not selling you a chore, we're selling you a solution. Some other great features on these, they're zinc coated. They're 75% more corrosion resistant than paint or powder coat, so we don't want these things falling apart on you. They realign your truck with built-in 4 degrees of caster. So what that means is your stock ball joint's sitting in this position, and when you lift your truck, you actually need to move that ball joint back to get that stock OEM rake back in. That way your truck, when it's aligned, is going to drive and track down the road like a rail car. A couple of the reasons why, if you lift your truck, you want to go with a new, correctly designed upper control arm. As you can see here, I've got a rag behind this, but on the stock UCA, because I've lifted my truck a little bit higher, this UCA doesn't have any clearance between the coil and it will over droop and ding up the coil. So these were built with a lot of clearance, so at full droop, you're not going to hang into your coils. All right, enough of me flapping my beard hairs. Let's get this thing put in. Wheels and tires are off. I got a rag behind the stock UCA so that when it drops down, it's not going to ding up our coils. First thing you want to do, grab a 22 wrench, and we're going to loosen the through bolt. I like to use a 22 gear wrench because you're going to have some tight clearances here. Get my gear wrench set, and grab another wrench, lock it together for a little extra pulling power, and then there we go, it snaps loose. Also try to check the other side, the bolt side, and as long as the head's not moving, just get the bolt loose and off. Spin that off. This big washer comes off with it. And the nut fits like that, kind of cups towards the nut. So we'll set that aside. We will grab a little body panel tool. We'll pop this clip out here on your little splash guard. Let that hang down. Next, let's talk about our ABS line. We want to make sure this is all loose because if we separate the ball joint for the upper control arm and this all droops out and you tear this, very expensive part to replace. And you got to go to the dealership for it. So actually the Tundra's got a bunch of extra little brackets on it. You've got one up here at the top on the spring perch. You've got one here on the control arm. You've got one down here on the back of the spindle. And then you have a couple of these little ABS line clips, 1, 2, and 3, down here between the spindle and the back of the hub. This one, don't really need to take it out. If you want to, you can, but it's not going to give you any extra slack. So we'll take the one off on the control arm and it's a 10 mil wrench. So grab that. Once you break it loose, you can just untighten it by hand, spin that guy out. Come on now. Next, we'll move down here to the spindle, remove this bracket, grab a 12 mm wrench, break this guy off. Again, once you break these loose, for the most part, unless your truck's older or maybe like an East Coast truck or it's spent time out by the ocean, these usually don't get a lot of corrosion in them. They're easy to just undo by hand. All right, move that forward, put that guy back. Now, grab yourself a flathead screwdriver, and we're gonna pop these little clips off. You can get to the entire clip with pliers and pull it out. So instead of pulling the entire clip off of the bracket, just stick a flathead there, push in, and just twist. And I'll do this one next year too. And now I'm ready to undo the ball joint. So we'll undo this cotter pin. The OEM one is a spring style clip like that. Set that aside. All right, grab yourself a 19 mil wrench. We're gonna break this castle nut loose on the ball joint. Back it down, but don't take it all the way off. Leave it like that, because what we're gonna do, there's two ways to separate this. You can use a ball joint separator, or there's a strike plate on the front of the spindle. Take yourself a little mini sledge, or a big one if you want. Just be careful not to hit the boot, because you don't want to, you know, if you tear that thing up, grease will come out. So start out slow. That's all it took. That's why we left the castle nut on, so this doesn't all come flying apart. Now what you can do is use your leg to kind of brace, lower control, spin that castle nut off, like that. And this should all pop right out, which it does. Make sure you've got a rag or something here, so when that sets down, it won't hurt your coils. And then if you have a bungee cord or some way of tying this, you can tie it back. But on the Tundras, the whole hub assembly here just kind of rocks back and doesn't really want to pull away. So I just leave it like that. Now that this is all separated and out of the way, we can remove the long mounting through bolt on the bushing side of our UCAs. So to do that, we've already pulled the nut and the washer off. Just wiggle it around and push it through. There's a wire harness on the driver's side here. You don't really even need to unhook it. I've found that if you just kind of push it back out of the way, you can get this, the bolt side, kind of sneak it right by it. Make sure your washer kind of stays back towards the bushing, and then just wiggle it back and forth. And if it gets stuck, grab the upper control arm and just move it back and forth like that, and just keep feeding it through. Yeah, it's so much nicer. Like on the Tacomas, there's a pinch weld that gets in the way, but this just has a ton more room to work with. So that's out. I just leave the bolt right there, and I carefully pull the stock control arm out. Everything's out. Grab your Pro Forge UCA, sneak it around that ABS wire in the back, and plug it right in. All right, don't forget they're a little bit of a tight fit, so wiggle them around. And once you've got them lined up as close as you can on that mount, then come back over here on your left-hand side, grab your big through bolt, make sure that washer's as close to it as possible. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I'm gonna grab my rag so that I keep the powder coat nice on the coils. Grab this through bolt. There we go. Feed that washer through. Push that wire harness back. And then you can kind of work it back and forth until it starts to go in. And you've got a lot of room up here, so you can really reach your hand back in, grab onto that bolt. All right, there it goes. And then you've got all that room. You just keep feeding that bolt through from left to right towards the back, pops right in. We'll grab our washer. All right, right, get the washer on, and then be careful not to drop this nut. Sometimes, not that I've ever done it 10 times, but if it falls in behind the frame. Use both hands. Don't drive angry. Spin that down. And then for now, we're going to leave it all loose, because the rule of thumb is never tighten down suspension components that have bushings. Wait till the truck's on the ground. You can pretty much tighten anything else down, but anything that moves or flexes, leave it until the truck is on the ground in its natural resting position. All right, now what we can do is hook up our UCA to the spindle, bring the spindle in, drop the ball joint, threaded shaft right down, keep some down pressure there, grab your castle nut, spin that bad boy up on there, grab yourself that 19mm wrench. You want to get it nice and tight. You're going to want to line up one of those castellation slots. Grab your cotter pin. Tuck that bad boy in there. Bend it around. Back up. That's done. Awesome. Now we just got to get our ABS line brackets buttoned back up. So we'll start back at the top. If you loosen this top one on the upper spring perch, make sure you bolt that back down. It's a 10mm. We'll put that bracket on our control arm. 10 mil. That plugs in real nice. All right, that's good and tight. Move down to the next one. We left our bolt in the back of the spindle. We'll pull that out, line it up, spin that back in. Grab a 12mm wrench. Get that good and tight. Don't have to kill it. We'll come around to the front side of the spindle where we pulled the ABS line out of those little clips. Pull those plastic clips back. Make sure the wire is seated in the bottom of them. And then just push really hard and over. And they just snap right back into place. I know these install videos make it seem like we're moving a lot faster than we are. But on the Tundra, this UCA install has seriously only taken me 15 minutes. That's to get everything off, get everything back in. It is such a quick and easy install. We just got to get the wheels and tires on, take the truck for a quick spin so that it settles, drive it back in on a nice flat level surface, and we'll tighten our upper UCA through bolt to 85 foot-pounds. After that, you're done. Run the truck for 500 miles, check your torque. It's going to be good to go. Where are my keys? All right, truck's back in the garage. It's on the ground. We rolled it around. It's sitting in its natural resting position. So we need to tighten that upper through bolt on our UCA. So grab yourself a 22mm wrench. A ratcheting wrench makes it a lot easier. Fit it over the nut. And then one little trick. The bolt side, because you've got bushings and these big washers, if you watch, it actually won't move. But keep an eye on it. If it starts to move, you'll need to put a wrench on it. But I've done this a few times, and every time I've done it on the Tundras, they never move. So I just tighten this with the single wrench, about as good as I can get it. And we're going to go to 85 pounds, but you're going to probably still need to lock a couple wrenches together. And you don't have a lot of room to work, so watch your knuckles. It's about as tight as we'll go. Cool. Now we just have to button up our mud flap splash guard things over here. It just pops right back in. There's one on the spring perch. That's in. Those are all in. Cool. That's that. Don't forget, if you guys have questions, reach out to us. We're there. We've got a technical support center. You can call us Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. And if it's outside of those hours or you don't know how to talk on the phone, go to Ironman4x4America.com. We got the little live chat bubble that'll pop up. It's real people, not robots, because that's who we care about.
These UCAs are so sick. I get so many looks, bro. I mean, like, so many looks.